What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick, and I have yet another album review for you, or an EP. Seems like there's some debate as to whether this is a full length or an EP. It doesn't matter. I'm still going to go over it. So today we are going over what might be the debut full length from Pustulant Flesh, Gurgling Pustulence. This also comes out on the 8th of August on Extremely Rotten Productions. This band formed in 2022 in Denmark, originally known as Fetus Deletus, which I don't know how you just back off a name like that because it's so fucking good. Either way, then they changed their name to Putrid Abortion, and then they apparently settled on Pustulant Flesh, which, I mean, all three are good, but I'm absolutely in love with Fetus Deletus. Was there another Fetus Deletus? I kind of need to find that out because I feel like my collection is incomplete without Fetus Deletus. Anyway, as I said, this is either their first full length or their second EP. They put out another EP back in 2023 called Beyond Lobotomy, which coincidentally is the opening track on here. And in case the album cover did not clue you in, this is some absolutely rancid, putrid, disgusting death metal. I can't imagine you would think this was anything else. You have a corpse puking into another corpse's mouth. Yeah, what else could that possibly be? Maybe grindcore, maybe gore grind. But that's about it. Black metal, thrash metal, doom metal, they are not touching that artwork. So I really didn't know anything about this band at all, but I mean, as soon as I saw the artwork and heard one track, it was like, yeah, no, I'm very familiar with this sound. It's rotten, it's muffled, the production on here is decidedly very like 90s demo-ish. The guitars have this like absolutely swampy, grainy, kind of gross tone. The bass sounds kind of like a wet fart in the background. The drums sound very natural. It's pretty much everything that I think, fans of bands like Undergang, Autopsy, Cryptworm, Sequestrum, and Morbific would absolutely love. The opening track, Beyond Lobotomy, comes in with a grainy, like 1950s tutorial on how to move around organs in a corpse, a very Carcass-esque sort of sample, and it bookends. And then you just get into these filthy, disgusting tremolos. Again, it's just absolutely rotten sounding. And then the vocals on here are very muffled and very distorted and coming at you at all different angles. I have to admit, I kind of like what they did production-wise with the vocals because sometimes they sit up front, sometimes they're in the back, and sometimes they're just like a swirling tornado of people vomiting. You do get like a little bit of that like Doppler effect with that on songs like Cadaver Creation, and I believe the title track kind of ends on that too. Plus there's also like some very interesting samples, very wet samples, I would say. Baseline, the atmosphere in here alternates between like early Carcass and like a butter churn full of fucking organs and shit. But this thing's got riffs. It's got gnarly, savage, gross riffs on every single song. And they do weave in like a little bit of like extra brutality. Like this doesn't say like so firmly rooted in like just flat out old school death metal. Like, there are some brutal moments where it kind of, leans a little bit more into bands like Baphomet or Broken Hope a bit. Beyond Lobotomy and Cadaver Creation both have like some big, hefty, chuggy, groovy moments. They're a little bit more broken down. You get like squawky, distant riffs. And, the riffs themselves are occasionally kind of hard to make out, especially when they're playing fast because it's a fucking really murky tone. But they do add like some fun accents, like some hammer-ons, some squealies. There are no leads on here at all, but they do have enough fun with the riffs where, I wouldn't say they're like really needed. Like I would have appreciated a couple of dive bombs here and there, and they totally would have fit. But with this style of death metal, I mean, riffs are kind of like the central thing, that and just making it sound as gross as possible, which, mission accomplished. When this band slows down, it gets particularly gross. The lurching riffs at the end of Cadaver Creation in particular are just gross. You can hear them bend. It's the equivalent of like a fucking zombie with an infected pus-filled leg kind of like limping after you. The title track and March of the Ravenous Dead have some like, flat out more like just kind of like straight up death doom moments. A little bit more distance in the riffs. It's a little bit more sinister rather than brutal, and I mean, it's gross, but like a different kind of gross. They do eventually pick back up because a lot of this, I would say, is a little bit more like mid-tempo. Like you get a lot of like old school bolt thrower grooves on here, like lots of double time stuff. But it does do a good job of slowing it down occasionally and getting into like some really fun blast patterns. The one song that I can't pronounce because it's in Danish, Dog Snacks. That song starts with like a swampy drum and bass groove, and again, this bass sounds like it was like boiled in fucking hot liquid garbage, which is a compliment, by the way, because that's exactly what the band probably wanted. But you get into this slow groove, and then it gets in this like fun blast pattern with like a cool turnover in it. And occasionally the riffs get like a little bit punky too. Like there are some, I don't know how to really describe it, brighter riffs every now and then, because I mean a lot of this is just beat down, gross, chunky riffs, disgusting tremolos. But every now and then you get like some like, you know, straight up like kind of D-beat, kind of like punky riffs, and they're not necessarily, you know, the most savage thing. Like they're a little bit more fun and loose. And I mean, this band has to be a little bit fun and loose considering like all the gross shit they're talking about. In fact, I kind of knew they were once I saw the title of one of these tracks and the fact that it was only 5 seconds long. The fifth track in here, and forgive me, I actually have to read this off here because it's a fucking sentence. A single muscle twitches as I wrested my blade from your guts to your throat and leave you dying, helpless, and alone. Hashtag a love story. Yeah, it took me longer to read that title than the song actually is. It's pretty much like a gross tribute to fucking You Suffer. It's like one quick riff, and yeah, like I kind of like the fact that they did like just the longest title possible, shortest song fucking ever. That to me is enough proof that this is like a very tongue-in-cheek thing, and I love that. Like, this is, you know, I brought it up before with bands like this. It's over-the-top gore. It's like gorehound flicks where you just watch for, you know, buckets of fucking blood, guts everywhere, maybe 4 or 5 tit flashes in a shower scene, you know, the usual stuff. But again, there's like just some extra nods in here that I feel like are a little bit fun, like the punky riffs. The sludge swing that is at the end of March of the Ravenous Dead kind of comes out of nowhere. The song is chuggy, it's beastly, it's pretty damn catchy, honestly. Like there's some really clever like hammer-ons placed in there. You know, it kind of gives the swampy droning riffs like a little bit more character, but then it takes this hard turn into, I mean, a riff that would not sound out of place on pick your favorite Crowbar album or pick your favorite Down album. It breaks into like a Sabbath sort of swing on there too, and it's kind of cool to hear it kind of like morph back into the death metal. And it was just like a little clever nod on there to kind of like make the song, you know, stand out a little bit more amongst the pack. Because I mean, some of this does run together, and part of it is kind of due to the production, because the production itself, especially in the guitars, it can kind of make riffs indistinct, especially when they're going fast. Like the title track in particular has like a really cool thrashy break, but it's kind of hard to make out like the intricacies of the riff. I mean, you know, this is like primal as hell, but I still kind of want to hear it. And then, you know, when the wet, gross samples come in behind that, and you get I think a movie sample in there too. Not really sure which one, because there were a lot of gross noises going on at the same time. But I felt like it kind of buried the riffs in that moment. And then after that, it gets in these like slow, like, you know, open single chords. And that's where like the strength of the guitar is. When they're playing those slow, like monotonous, like lurching, droning riffs, you can hear every ounce of fucking filth just drip out of the speakers. There's so much sizzle on them, it sounds like they just like took recordings of the Fry-O-Lator at McDonald's and just slowed it down. All this overall, though, is pretty damn fun. I will say it is kind of hard to distinguish, you know, from a ton of other bands, you know, namely the ones that I named and probably a shit ton of others, in terms of like making it stand out amongst the pack. This band really doesn't do anything to like, you know, kind of like stand out in the pack amongst their, you know, gory contemporaries, but at the same time, it's fun. You know, this is like, you know, again, pizza, beer, and horror movies, and, you know, just flat out fun. And I'm always down for that. Like, this is like nothing super cerebral. I don't expect that. Unless by cerebral you mean someone getting their brain smashed in with a hammer, then maybe it is cerebral. I don't know what that Danish word means. It could mean getting brain smashed in with hammer. God, this thing's even got me talking like a caveman now. So overall, I'm going to give this 3 stars. Honestly, it could grow on me a little bit more, but I mean, I had fun on the listens I had. I don't know if I'm going to call this an EP or, you know, a full length. It's only like 19 minutes long. So you could call it an EP just because of length, but it's 7 tracks. So I don't know, maybe that constitutes a full length. I don't know. I don't make the rules. So, you know, it is whatever it is. But the main thing is, I think it's just gory, gross fun. Absolutely chock full of rotten riffs. The production on here, well, at times I do think it is a little bit overdone in terms of making it sound extra grimy. The griminess is kind of a key thing to this sound. Like, if you clean this up too much, it loses a whole level of atmosphere that it absolutely needs. Because it needs to sound like, you know, it's the audio equivalent of like MRSA or a fucking staph infection or gangrene. That's, you know, kind of the necessary aesthetic for this. But I mean, the main thing is they got some solid riffs. The songs are fun. They have some catchier moments, and there were some fun surprises on here. So yeah, if you're a big fan of, like, again, Undergang, especially, not just because they're Danish. Sequestrum, also not just because they're Danish too, and share members with Undergang. Cryptworm, Autopsy, Cerebral Rot, Corpus Awful, stuff like that. Check this out. It's just good, rotten fun. So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We also have memberships. They are only 99 cents, and our lone perk is doing a members-only live stream, which we will eventually get back to, because John is being freed from bondage, which he gets paid to be there, so it's not necessarily bondage, but we would like to have him back more. But membership is the main way to support the channel, and there is a join button down below for you to smash, headbutt, maybe puke on. I don't know. I'm trying to think of something this album would inspire. Anyway, if it says you joined, then you did it right, and I would suggest cleaning up afterwards. And of course, thank you guys so much for liking, subscribing, following, all that stuff. It means the world to us. I'm currently trying out a new camera here. Granted, it's still a GoPro, but it's a new GoPro, and I'm attempting to shoot this in 4K. I think I hit everything right on it. Granted, the layout is relatively simple for a GoPro, but if it looks wrong, that means I totally fucked it up. But yeah, this came out of necessity because the GoPro 11 died, so here we are with number 12. Anyway, tons of content coming your way. Again, once John is back in the fold, we're going to get down to the bigger videos, of course, you know, At the Gates ranking. Hopefully we have a date here soon. We also are toying around some different topical things to sit around and just bullshit about. But also tons of reviews because, you know, towards the end of the year, we always get like a huge influx of reviews, and there's a lot of big releases on the horizon. But yeah, looking forward to just overloading you guys with content. So one more big thank you, because you guys are absolutely awesome, and we will catch you later.